every once in a while we come across a chemical equation which is really difficult to balance. This is one such example. So I have taken this example from Viraj J. Dalal's Simplified ICSE Chemistry book for class 9th. But no matter like even if you are in class 9th or 10th or ICSE or CBSE, doesn't matter, because we have to know how to balance equations, and sometimes the equations that we have to balance are more difficult. Now, there is always a hit and trial method that we use, but for certain equations, the hit and trial method becomes really tedious and really difficult. So what we are going to do here today is come up with a new technique that will be like super easy for you to like understand and apply for all these kind of equations. So let's start with this equation in which sulfur reacts with concentrated nitric acid to produce sulfuric acid, water and nitrogen dioxide. Now what you can see here, that sulfur atom is present only in one of the reactants, right? So sulfur is present in only one of the reactants, and then sulfur goes to only one of the products. Similarly, for nitrogen exists in nitric acid only in the reactant side, and then it goes only to a nitrogen dioxide. So nitrogen, focus on nitrogen atom here. So nitrogen atom on the reactant side is present only in nitric acid, while nitrogen atom is present only in nitrogen dioxide in the reactant side. Same goes for sulfur. So sulfur in here is in here as sulfur, and the sulfur atom is present as sulfuric acid in the product side. So whenever this kind of thing happens, what you can do is assume that you start with X atoms of sulfur, right? So you start with X atoms of sulfur. Now, whenever you do this, then you have to understand this sulfur is only going to this sulfuric acid. That means to balance this out, there must be X atoms of X molecules of sulfuric acid present here, right? Because you have to have X. If you start with X, you will have X. If you start with 2, you will have 2. You'll start with 3, you'll have 3. Whatever that number is, we do not know what that number is. We have to balance that. So you assume it is X, and therefore the number of molecules of H2SO4 will also be X, right? So this is simple. Now do the same kind of thing for nitrogen. Assume that there are Y molecules for nitric acid in here. So just by analogy, what will happen? These Y number of nitrogen atoms will also have to be here. So therefore you have to have Y molecules of nitrogen dioxide on the product side, right? So this is where we start. Now, by doing this, what you have done is you have fixed the number of, like the coefficients of sulfur, nitric acid, H2SO4, nitrogen, right? Now what we'll do is we'll try to balance. So we have assumed the number of atoms for sulfur and nitrogen. Now the two things that remains is hydrogen and oxygen. Now let's see what happens to hydrogen. We'll just count the number of hydrogen on the reactant and the product side, and we know that that has to be equal. So the number of atoms of hydrogen in the reactant side should be equal to the number of atoms of hydrogen in the product side. This is balancing, right? This is nothing new. This is balancing. Now, calculate the number of atoms of hydrogen in the reactant side. In here you see that number of hydrogen atoms has to be Y times H. So, number of hydrogen atoms is actually Y, right? This is actually Y. In the product side, how many atoms of hydrogen are there? 2x plus 2. There is no hydrogen here, there is no hydrogen elsewhere, and there is only hydrogen in here. That means this equation is going to be satisfied. Y is equal to 2x plus 2, right? So this is one of the equations that comes, right? Now, we'll also balance the number of oxygen. Now balancing the number of oxygen atoms in the reactant side should be equal to the number of oxygen atoms in the product side. So how many oxygen atoms are there? It's very simple right now, right? So it's 3 times Y must be equal to, you have 4 times X plus 1 atom from here, 4 times X because 4 times X oxygen, and 2 times Y plus 2 times Y. This gives us another equation which tells, so now this is 3y, 2y, 2y comes on this side, so this becomes y is equal to 4x plus 1. Now you have two equations that says that y is equal to 2x plus 2 and y is also equal to 4x plus 1. That means 4x plus 1 is equal to 2x plus 2, right? So this means 4x plus 1 is equal to 2x plus 2. This gives 2x equal to 1. That means x is 0.5. Right? When you get x as 0.5, now it is very easy to calculate what is y. 2x, 2 times x, 2 times 0.5 is 1 plus 2, 3. That means y becomes 3 and x becomes 0.5. So you just substitute in here. So x was 0.5 and y is 3. 0.5, y is 3. Now this is balanced. Now this doesn't look very pretty because this is 0.5. It is in a fraction. We don't like fractions. So what we'll do is we'll multiply the entire equation by 2. So if you multiply this by 2, this becomes, if you multiply this entire thing by 2, what do you get? Essentially you will get 2 times 0.5 is 1, 3 times 2 is 6, 0.5 times 2 is 1, you get 2 here, 1 times 2 and 6 in here. Now see if this is balanced or not. Now sulfur, how many atoms of sulfur there? 1, so sulfur is balanced. Next go to nitrogen, how many nitrogen atoms are there? 6, it is balanced. Now go for hydrogen, there are 6 hydrogens in here, there are 2 and 4, 6 hydrogens, so hydrogen is good. Oxygen, 6 3s are 18 oxygen atoms, so you have 4 plus 2, 4 plus 2 is 6 and 6 plus 6 times 2 is 12, 18. So this whole equation is balanced and you didn't have to go through the gruesome hit and trial, because this would have become really difficult if it was a hit and trial method, right? So this is how you simply can do these equations. There are more equations like this. I urge you to go and try these things that are there. The students of ICSE can go to Viravjit Dalal chapter 1 of ICSE class 9 and they can have all these equations. You can practice more equations from your book. Also, at AcadNest app, we have solved the entire first chapter of ICSE of both class 9th and 10th, and you can find out the entire solution for free on our app. So if you want to have all the solutions that are there in the entire book, I implore you to go there and download the solutions and try and learn balancing all the equations that you ever dream of balancing. If you want to learn more about chemistry and have a step-by-step approach in which we teach students chemistry from the basics, and we do not just focus on the balancing the equations but everything that is being taught in your school, then you can go to acadnest.com and enroll in one of our courses in which we teach ICSE and CBSE students the entire science and science, chemistry and physics, right? So you can go to acadnest.com and get benefited from all the courses that we have there for you.